Well, let's get more now. We can speak to Amjad Shawa, who is a Palestinian humanitarian and human rights advocate. He's the director of the Palestinian Non-Governmental Organizations Network and joins us from Gaza City. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us. Really appreciate it. I mean, apart from the mood, which we're told is a bit more upbeat than it was, has much changed there in Gaza since this ceasefire deal took effect?
Thank you. The big changes that we have, the ceasefire which was applied and the stop of the airstrikes. Second, the Israeli withdrawal from some areas from Gaza, and as a first step forward, the issue of the full withdrawal. The third, which is the return of hundreds of thousands of displaced people who were moved to the south back to the north. But to tell you that, today we have 9 people were killed in Gaza Strip by the Israeli shooting. And the second point, which is still the services in Gaza, which was destroyed, it's in very critical levels, mainly the water, the health, the nutrition facilities, which was also destroyed by the Israelis. And now 1.5 million of the Palestinians, they lost their homes. 90% of the Palestinian homes and the housing system was damaged or destroyed totally. So it's a very challenging point. And every day we are discovering such critical conditions in Gaza as a result of the Israeli destruction. And another challenge, which is collecting the bodies under the rubbles of the homes, which enter families still there, because we have no enough equipment and the personnel that can help us. The unexploded devices, which is also needs for these heavy equipments, which is not there. So it's so many challenges that we are facing as a humanitarian work. And the third point, which is the humanitarian supplies, which is supposed to enter according to the humanitarian protocol, according to the deal. We have very limited amount of aid which is getting Gaza Strip, and just 172 trucks for the humanitarian organizations entered last Sunday. Yesterday, there was the swab and the crossings were closed. And today it's kind of Jewish holiday, so the crossings also closed. So nothing entered. And just now we received the news that Rafah crossing will not be reopened. Also, that we will have less humanitarian supplies to enter by the Israelis. So this kind of announcement really disturbed the Palestinian joy regarding the deal and the relax that we had when it was announced. So now less relax for the Palestinians, and mainly that the displaced people who lost their homes and there is no shelter supplies to offer them, that we are waiting for the winter. And I'm sorry to say that we have no enough shelter supplies to provide to the people. We need for 300,000 tents on time, what had been entered only a few thousands.
Right, yeah, as you say, I mean, 80% of homes in Gaza have been destroyed. So, of course, big questions remain with regards to shelter for people there. But I just wanted to ask you, I mean, obviously, food and scarcity of food and nutrition has been a big issue for several months now in Gaza. But has there been any sort of visible improvement at all during the course of the last 48 hours, or is it just too early to tell?
Yeah, there is kind of improvement, which is light improvement that we witnessed, but it cannot deal with the issue of famine that, from the 2 months ago that Gaza declared as a famine zone by the IPC. So till now, we didn't witness this improvement that I can say it can deal with this implications of the famine. We need the fluidity of more aid trucks to get in with different supplementary items that we can provide to these tens of thousands of children, pregnant women, elders who are suffering from acute malnutrition. And this is still critical conditions for them. And also the health facilities in need for rehabilitation, in need for medications and medical supplies in order to help these cases. Also, we are waiting for the medical evacuation of 18,000 patients who are and injured people who are in need for life-saving medical treatment outside Gaza Strip. So all the conditions still, I cannot see any improvement, just light things, which I hope that the international community that continue their pressure in Israel to respect the commitments according to the deal in order to open the crossings and let in aid, mainly for UNRWA. UNRWA has 6,000 trucks loads of aid supplies, which is waiting outside, and UNRWA is delivering from 40 to 50% of these services.
Right, so obviously not all of the crossings have been opened as per what people would like to see, and you mentioned the Rafah crossing there as well. But are more trucks starting to cross the border? Is that something you're hearing? I mean, clearly still not enough is getting in, is the essence of what I'm hearing, though.
Yes, I can say there is more trucks to enter, but with very limited items. As I said, no tents entered till now. So this is one of the priority for the Palestinians to get these tents in Gaza Strip that we can provide directly to these displaced people who lost their homes, the desperate people. And I have high concerns about these women, children, elders, people with disability, and there are no shelter for them. So this is something that we have considered. What had been entered, very limited amount of aid supplies. Yes, there is increase of the number of trucks which was entered, but until now it's not equivalent to the number that's supposed to enter, the 600 trucks supposed to enter every day according to the agreed humanitarian protocol.
Right, and as October progresses, presumably the temperature will start to drop there in Gaza to sort of wintry conditions as the year ends. I mean, there's a lot of talk about reconstruction of Gaza. I mean, clearly in the current context, that must sound rather incredulous. When can reconstruction begin? When can people even start to think about it, do you think?
Yeah, this is very good question, and it's good enhance the hope between the Palestinians. We're talking about the construction of Gaza. You know, 90% of Gaza, about 90%, which is destroyed, and there is about 60 million tons of rubble all over there. And the main point here that we are talking about the humanitarian response, which will be followed by early recovery. And this is a need for political solutions that I hope that first that we can have this permanent ceasefire. And the second, to have to approve the Palestinian Egyptian Arab plan, which was approved by the different countries and mainly by EU, and to hold this construction conference, which the president, the Egyptian president Sisi mentioned in his statement in Sharm el-Sheikh yesterday. So it will, this summit will, or construction conference will help us in order to allocate funds from the different states regarding the Gaza construction, and to have this political will and also pressure on Israel to let in the construction materials to be in Gaza and people that they can recover, and also the infrastructure to start recovering, and also to have this socio-economic recovery as soon as possible. This is needed in order to sustain the ceasefire and to make the people also treated and in better conditions.
Just going back to food aid, I just wanted to ask you briefly about something we heard a lot about from the Israelis, which was that armed groups were intercepting aid deliveries and stealing the aid or obstructing the delivery of the aid. I mean, did you see that? And is that something that's still happening, or was it never happening in the first place?
These groups were created in areas which under the Israeli control. And this is engineered chaos by Israel in order to steal the aid and to waste it, and at the same time, this aid not to reach the distribution points run by the humanitarian organizations, the UN, NGOs, and national NGOs, in order to have safe, dignified distribution. They need this chaos, and we witnessed this in what's called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, also on the unsafe roads for the humanitarian convoys where people were killed and also insulted in the same time. So this is part of the things that we are looking forward to declaring the humanitarian protocol in order to find safe roads for these convoys in order to be distributed directly with no constraints and with no looting of this aid.
Mr. Shawa, obviously it's been 24 months since schooling was a normal thing for children to be able to do. I mean, is there a chance that sort of educational facilities will start operating as usual in the weeks ahead there now in Gaza?
By chance, you are talking today, and today the high school exams results were announced, and about 27,000 students applied these exams, and today there was the results. So there was so many happiness amongst the families who lost 2 years of their education. But for the basic education, I'm saying that we did our hard work regarding establishment of hundreds of temporary learning spaces, which is about tents, in order that these children to go to these tents to receive some lessons and to get back the education. But for the Israeli attacks, I think it was very complicated, risky to collect the children and the students. And for the also for the higher education, for the universities, we have this digital education, which was good, but the digital infrastructure in Gaza Strip is very weak, that these students to receive education. But we will continue our work as humanitarians in order to get whatever we can of the capacities for these children and for these students to continue their education. And we hope in the ceasefire time that we can resume the education, although that the most 90% of the schools were destroyed, and so many of these children were killed. And these children also who are alive, they carried trauma, and their mental health is attacked by the Israelis. So we hope that we can, through this time, we can recover through psychosocial support, and education process can be back in not in better way, but as maximum as we can do.
There are obviously lots of organisations working on the ground, and this is something that I wanted to ask you about because I think it might be related to what you do. I was just wondering how local NGOs and the major international agencies, you know, like the UN, the Red Cross, how do they all coordinate amongst themselves and make sure that they're not doubling up on their efforts in one area and neglecting their efforts in another area?
Yeah, it's a good question. Again, this is something that we are working through humanitarian country team, which composed of the UN agencies, the national NGOs, the international organizations, in order to coordinate also in different clusters that these NGOs and agencies are working together in order to put the priorities and to organize their interventions in the different priority areas that we are looking forward. Although that part of the big challenges, the shortage of aid supplies, the restrictions of the Israelis, also the Israelis' attacks on the humanitarian workers and organizations. We lost hundreds of aid workers. Also the restrictions that Israel imposed and the banning of UNRWA, the biggest UN agency, and also the INGOs that they have new registration system imposed by Israel, and it restricts their work and their entry of their supplies to Gaza Strip. Also, we as national NGOs, our premises were destroyed. About 80% of our premises, headquarters and capacities were destroyed. So we are working from the tents, from the shelter, from wherever that we can manage to work. It's a lot of work we are doing all together, mainly the national NGOs who are still the frontliner to respond to the needs of the people.
I know you mentioned at the beginning that there had been some further violence today and that people had been killed there in Gaza. but obviously on a much smaller scale than a couple of weeks ago. And I just wanted to ask you, just as we bring this conversation to a close, how nervous are people there in Gaza that there could be a resumption of hostilities and that the diplomatic efforts could somehow yield no results?
For sure, people are nervous and they are scared in order to that war be back by these statements from the Israeli side that they will resume the war in Gaza, they will make less aid to enter. This is make kind of worries and the traumas amongst the people. After the people get this joy and relax, now they are in very tentative conditions that if this ceasefire will not go forward, this for sure that will get more tension from the people. So we are looking forward. This ceasefire will continue, and we are looking that the mediators to do their job in order to solve all the problems regarding this. And our people in very critical moments that we passed, displaced people that we, 24 months, we calculated them by second, by minute. It's not easy mission to live in such condition through the daily killing. Each family lost one of their beloved one, and at the same time, they have damages or destruction of their belongings, their homes, and they lost their incomes. At the same time, displacement, which is not the easy mission, to be displaced to nowhere, to unsafe, and we passed through the starvation. All of us, we were starved. All that we as a humanitarian actors, we didn't receive at least less than 1 meal a day. So this is past, and till now that we are suffering, but not as before.
Okay, well, we really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. Thank you very much indeed. Amjad Shawa, thank you very much indeed.